Hi, everybody. I see you're here, and here I am. And I look forward to answering your questions. I will stay for an hour or for however long I have questions, whichever comes first. Okay. So, Barclay Todd, you're up first. You want to know the reasons for Prince Harry and Meghan returning to the UK, and do the cards see it as permanent? Well, we know that they have maintained their residence in Portugal as well as their residence in Montecito, California. So, they could always pick up and leave should the urge hit them. We also have found out that Megan is going to be returning to acting, which I think is probably the concession that she made in order to agree to the family going back to the UK. So I have looked at this before, but I'm going to look at it again. Permanent, who knows what is permanence, right? So I think a better question is, why are they going back? And I think what I'll do is I won't pick a significator. I'll just let the cards tell the story, and spirit can pick the significator. Significator meaning the card in the middle. And the card in the middle is always really important, kind of gives us the crux of things. Okay, so here we go. Oh no, I realized that on this platform, if I put the lid down, you can't really see the whole thing. So I'm just going to skip that step. I've cut the deck into three. Now I have the deck in my hand, and I'm going to just feel for what cards I want to use. So this is what I mean. I just feel for what the right cards are. People say you don't need intuition to read Lenormand. You don't need intuition to read Lenormand on a basic C-spot run first grade level. That's true. But if you want to read with any sophistication, you do want to employ every sense that you have, and intuition is helpful. So I'm just going to flip them over. Okay, so we have the bouquet, we have the tower, we have the clouds, we have the birds, and we have the house. So, the bouquet, I think that they feel like it is their children's birthright to know the country of their father, given that their grandfather is the king of that country. So I feel like they're doing it because this is their children's home. This is their birthright. The second card is the tower. Now, it's the card for institutions, right? Institutions like the monarchy, that's true. But it's also a card for loneliness. And I think Harry has really missed the land of his birth, the land where he grew up, the land where he, was a military person. So I think he has felt like quite the fish out of water. I think he will have more community around him. He'll be able to see friends and do stuff. Again, for Meghan, she can enter the acting world again. And I'm sure the schools are good. I mean, so I guess the children won't suffer. But what I find interesting is the card in the middle. And remember, I say the card in the middle is very important. It's clouds. So they don't go there unaware that people will feel some type of way about them being back there. They are aware of this, which is partly why they've kept their residences in California and in Portugal. In case things are not what they hope that they will be, they'll be able to have other options. So those clouds are interesting, and I think I'm going to pull some clarifiers on those clouds. Yeah. So these are the clouds, and the clarifiers are the moon, the book, and the child. So they don't know, it's all shrouded in mystery how this will go, and how they will be received. Remember that this is the card for reputation. How they'll be perceived, they really don't know, but they're hoping that they can sort of start on a clean foot. There will be no royal responsibilities for any of them because that's not part of the thing. Their housing is not royal housing, which means that nobody should have a beef about the fact that they're living there because nobody's footing the bill except the two of them. So they're hoping to just sort of to have a new start. Now, I'm going to pull cards on birds because, birds is talk, gossip, etc. But I feel like it's more when I mirror it with the tower that Harry has not had community. And so he kind of, I think, put a foot down and said, this is untenable for me. I can't live this Montecito life. I need to be back in England. And I think that they actually have written out terms for their return, terms that just between the two of them, like I agree to this if you agree to that. I think that again, Meghan being able to act was the sweetener for her. And then I'm going to pull cards on the house. So, this is home, family, etc. And they do want to balance things out. So they will still spend time in California. I mean, right? They want their children to know both sides of the family. They also want to create peace with Charles, who apparently was told kind of at the last minute that they were going to do this, which is interesting. So, Charles is not well, and he also is getting older. So I think that they want to have their children have a foot in both worlds. And I think Harry was lonely, and I think Meghan wants to act. And so those were the reasons. Okay. And, whether it's permanent, I think with the clouds in the center there, this is like a trial balloon. Whether being, part of two continents will work for them because Meghan's mother is staying in California. She teaches yoga. She's got her community. She's not trying to go back to anybody's UK to live, but they'll want to see her, of course. And of course she'll visit. So I just think that they're doing the modern thing, right? And that they will live in both places, but for the school year and for Meghan's, the run of whatever play she's going to be in or show she's going to be doing, they'll be in the UK. Okay, Gray Hallowell, what, if anything, will the Congress do to shore up Social Security? Yeah, word on the street has it that in 2030 something, that fund will be insolvent, meaning there will be no money. We know that the baby boomer generation, of which I am a part, was not called a baby boomer generation for nothing. There are a lot of us. And the way that this system has always worked is that the younger people coming up would enter the workforce, and they would essentially be the support by paying into Social Security for those people who had aged out of the workforce and retired. But a few things, you've got more and more people staying longer and longer in the workforce, which has meant fewer jobs for younger people. But really, more to the point, this is not a baby boom that we're in right now. There are not enough young people to shore that system up. So that's why the question is a good one. What will Congress do, if anything, to shore up Social Security? I'll tell you, this Congress will do nothing. And they've made that very clear. Mike Johnson, Mighty Mike, has made it clear that they, if anything, they want to cut it. That's their solution, to cut Social Security. So I think rather than look at what's going to happen right now, I think it's best to look at what will happen after the midterms, which are just in a few months. I mean, I always like to keep you up to date about how many days we have. So those midterms will be in 72 days. That's how many days we have until the election. Of course, the election is in November and people don't take their seats until January. So let's say 90 days if you round it out till the new Congress takes their seat. Be sure you are registered to vote and that everybody you know is registered to vote and has a plan in place for how to get to the polls. But the question is, what, if anything, will Congress do to shore up Social Security? So I'm going to let Spirit take the wheel here also, and I'm just going to feel for what I think the right cards are to answer this question. And I'm looking at Congress post the midterms. Okay. Okay, so we have the scythe, we have the snake, we have you know who, we have the bear, and we have the mountain. I do think that there will be this huge impasse, right? Once the new Congress is seated, and basically that means that the felon will not be able to do a lot of what he has tried to do, and so that means that the new Congress will try to cut out some of the bad stuff that he's done, right? I mean, he's stolen from this country in more ways than a person could even realize that theft is possible. So they will try to recoup some of that money, like the tariff money. Where's the tariff money? If we paid the tariffs in the form of higher prices, why is it that these big companies are the ones that got the tariff money back? To the extent that they got the tariff money back, by the way. You know, I think a lot of it is stashed. So I think they will try to undo some of his bad stuff. I'm sure that his ballroom will be stopped, all of that. You know, he's done a lot of damage to the economy. This is the economy, and he's really done a number. And it will take time before, for example, the national deficit can be brought down. It's up to something like 40 billion or trillion or a lot of money. We've never had a deficit this deep. And so they will have to chip away at that with the scythe, but it will take time. So I do think that the new Congress will have this as top of mind. So that's why we want the new Congress in session. Okay, Love Nature Oz. With the U.S. Treasury bond yields surging, despite the government's intervention, are we about to enter a new global financial crisis? So I'm going to use the bear, and because the bear is like big money, financial stuff. And so let's see. I mean, we know in this country, we talk about the bear market and the bull market, and we know that a bull market is a good market. That's a healthy market. That the bear market is obviously not good, but Lenormand doesn't know that. So Lenormand just, the bear is the card for the finance sort of in the big scheme of things. So I'm going to see how global finance looks moving forward. Now, you know, we say global. There are some places in the world that will do better than others, right? I think we will be harmed by everything that the felon has done in terms of a global economic crisis. So I'm going to look for the bear and see what's around. Okay, popped right up. So this stands for the world's finances. Well, this is really interesting. We have the ship, we have the fox, we have the bear, we have the sun, and we have the heart. Now, I mean, I don't want us to get too encouraged too fast because things will get worse before they get better. But I think with a new administration coming in, things will be better. The problem is, you know, you asked about the world economy, and what is the world saying? The world is saying, you know, once we are under a new administration, the world is saying, well, that's great. Thank God, you know who is you know where, meaning not the president. But, you know, we have elections every 4 years, and we put this person in office. I use the word loosely, in office twice. And the world will say, how are we supposed to trust that this won't happen again? And it's a legitimate question. So I do think, and I've said this with Lena, I don't know if you watch my Wednesday night show with Lena Down Under, but I've said this many times with her, is that I do think that this country certainly needs to be right-sized, which means downsized, which means we are not the boss of everybody, financially, militarily, or anything else. And we are being taught that lesson. And it's a hard lesson. But will things sort of stabilize over time? I think, yes, they will stabilize over time because we have these great cards. And I think globally, things will be stabilized because countries that have not had a chance to have a leg up will get that chance because the big behemoth countries like the US will be right-sized, will be put in our place. Okay. I'm just shuffling those cards back into the deck. And then I'll keep going down that line here. Okay. We have 251 of you here. I hope you're all subscribed, and I'd love it if you'd like, share, hype, subscribe, all those things that I always forget to say, but I would appreciate that. I'd love to by New Year's, let's say, to be at 40,000. Okay, Gloria, what was Pete Hegseth doing in Iowa, and what do Vance and Rubio think about it? Well, we have heard that what he was doing was putting out feelers for a presidential run. I mean, I don't know how much more tone deaf somebody could be than Hegseth. Hegseth, who travels everywhere with his wife, who has his wife in classified meetings. My understanding is that she's like his, what's that term? You know how people sometimes when they don't want to drink anymore and they live in a sober house with sober companions. I think she's his sober companion. I think he has an issue with alcohol, and I think she's like his support wife who makes sure that he doesn't drink. That's what I think. But anyway, and again, what gave him the idea that anybody wants him for president? The military can't stand him. You would think that would be a natural base, right? If he were doing the right thing. But so what was he doing in Iowa? We already know, right? He was floating a balloon as to whether or not he should enter the race. Now, what do Vance and Rubio think about it? Well, what do you think they would think about it? That's common sense, right? Rubio and Vance are already fighting things out between them. The felon loves that. He loves to pit those two men against each other. But I also think that what do Vance and Rubio think? I think they probably think what we think. I know, hard to believe, about Hegseth, which is, man, are you kidding? Like, in what universe could you get the presidential nomination from the Republican Party? Like, what? But let's see, what do they think? I'll let Spirit pick all the cards. What do Vance and Rubio think? And I suspect that they are on the same page, so I'm not going to do how each man thinks, because, do we really want to give them that much time? No. So what do Vance and Rubio think about Hegseth's trial balloon around the Republican nomination for president? Okay. Okay, so why did he do it? I mean, first of all, he has a very high opinion of himself. He thinks, I've been on TV. I'm photogenic. I look the part. So yeah, why not put my hat in the ring? He's looking towards the future. He thinks he has a good chance. And then we have crossroads. He has choices. He has decisions to make. Hopefully, Iowa will have shown him the door. But anyway, that seems to have shown me why Hegseth was there. He thinks he's presidential material, and he wanted to see who else thought that. But now let's look and see what do Rubio and Vance think about it. Okay, so we have the mountain, we have the sun. In the center, we have the letter, and I feel like the letter stands for votes. We have the dog, and we have clouds. So I think that, I have heard that even though, of course, the felon tries to create competition and unpleasantness between Rubio and Vance, word on the street is that they like each other, that they get along, that they're friendly. I do think that they think what we think, like, except, are you kidding? There is no way in the world that he would be picked as the nominee. They think that he will be shown that in short order. That's what they think. In the center, we have votes. And I will say, too, that because Rubio and Vance are friends, probably have some understanding as to who would play what role. Like, if you win, then I'll give you this position. If I win, I'll give you this position. You give me this, whatever. So this is their friendship. But the last card is interesting because it's clouds. I mean, are people in those circles ever really friends? I don't think so. I think everybody's looking out for themselves. But in terms of Hegseth, they're thinking, man, what are you thinking? Hopefully you'll see quite soon that this is not your path. This is not going to happen for you. So that's what I think they think. Okay. I said yesterday, I found out I have to have cataract surgery at some point soon. Well, whenever. And so I think it's psychological. I'm like, can I really see these questions? But I think it's all in my head. Okay. Will the U.S. drill in Greenland, or will they remove Trump's equipment? Well, we talked about this. If you're not watching Lena and me, please consider watching us. It's on my channel. We call it Worldview 360. It's at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. And we don't use cards, but we do talk about these kinds of issues, these issues of national and international concern. And Lena said something that I think makes all the sense in the world, that that the U.S. will not drill, that the equipment, because that's a bridge too far. Bad enough that they have shipped the material, the drilling material to Greenland, the machinery and stuff. That's an aggressive move against Greenland and, of course, Denmark. But will they remove Trump's equipment? She said a best case scenario is they don't drill and they don't take the equipment back, that they leave the equipment, and that Denmark and Greenland can say, thank you so much for this gift. Who knew? And then use it for their own ends. Will they drill in Greenland? Well, look, I don't think so. But then again, I mean, he did blow up the east wing of the White House, so anything is possible. So will the U.S. drill in Greenland? I'm going to let Spirit pick all the cards. Will the U.S. drill in Greenland? I mean, that to me, how's that not an act of war? That would be like somebody walking into your house and, I don't know, cooking themselves a steak. Like, what are you doing? That's my stove. What are you doing? It's my steak. What are you doing? Okay. Okay, so we have the heart, we have the garden, we have in the center the snake, clover, and then child. So here's what I think. I think that, the felon's stupid argument that Greenland should be the 51st state, he thinks that Americans, MAGA, would think that this was a great idea. 51st state, that's great with all that oil. So he thought that was a really cool thing to say. However, it has not been met with the kind of enthusiasm that he hoped that it would be. I mean, everybody has sense enough to know this is a wrong-headed, super aggressive, ugly American move. And I think that quick, fast, and in a hurry, as my mother would say, it will come to nothing. Now, whether they're going to go back to Greenland and then remove all the equipment, hopefully not. Let Greenland have it. But I just think that it kind of like fizzles out, I feel like. Because how could it not be perceived as an act of war? And you might say to yourself, well, what's Greenland going to do? Matter of fact, what's Denmark going to do if the U.S. commits this act of war? Well, they're going to call their buddies the EU. That's what they're going to do. And it would not be pretty. So I don't see anything coming of this. Okay, Nicola, or Nicola, sorry, however you pronounce your name. Do the people of Ohio believe and trust J.D. Vance? That's a good question. So, how do the people of Ohio feel about J.D. Vance? I'll use the younger man card because he's not old. But how does Ohio feel about Vance? So I am going to use a significator for Vance. Okay, let's see what we get. All right, looking for the younger man with an eye towards what Ohio thinks of him. You all have really excellent questions, and I'm really happy that I can do this for you because I know, usually you're at the mercy of whatever it is people in my business want to talk about, right? You don't get to dictate what's discussed. So I'm very happy to be able to do this for you. Okay, so this will stand for Vance, right? He goes in the center. So we have the mountain, we have the heart, we have Vance, key, and woman. Interesting that there's a mountain there. So I think that he may have some work to do in his home state before he can win over his state. But here he is in the middle. That said, I think that when it comes down to it, he will win them over because this is a yes card. I think that I know they just had their fourth kid, but I do think that there will be issues in his marriage. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that Usha would love to be first lady for like a minute. And then I think she'd say, you know what, let's get out of here. Let's go make money someplace. But I think with these two cards, I think the Republicans anyway in his state like him. I mean, you know, you ask whether they trust him. He's not a very trustworthy person. I mean, allegedly for entertainment purposes only, right? But I think that people will will have their own metrics in how they decide the pros and cons of JD Vance. But I think that because he's a homegrown boy who made good, I think he will find support in the Republican arena. You know, if something happens to the felon, he will be the president. And people in Ohio, just like the rest of the Republican field, may say, well, you know, he's already there, he's learning the job, let's just vote for him. But there will be a primary. If something happens to the felon, we know that Vance takes over, right? But that doesn't mean that Vance is the nominee automatically for the party. They will have a primary. And I suspect that certainly Ohio will support him. Yeah. Okay, this is Dion Marie voiceover. The Colorado River is drying up extremely fast. I live in Nevada. See, I know to say Nevada because I know in the East Coast where I'm from, we all say Nevada because we think it sounds cute, but I know you all say Nevada, so I'm saying Nevada. I live in Nevada and don't know if it's time to sell my house and move. What do the cards say? The cards are not going to answer that question, sorry, because that's a personal question. But I guess I can finesse the question so that I answer it not just for you. As I wrote in the description of this video, I'm not answering personal questions, Dion Marie voiceover. But that said, what will be the consequences for people in Nevada of the Colorado River drying up so quickly? I'll let Spirit pick all the cards. In other words, will the drying up of the Colorado River result in a mass exodus from Nevada? This way, the question applies to more than just you. Interesting. So it's very funny because we're talking about water, right? And so what do the cards give us? Fish and ship. And then we have lily, bouquet, and woman. I think that for the time being, things are going to be okay. I don't think there will be a mass exodus. So therefore, I think you will not be part of a mass exodus away from Nevada because of the Colorado River drying up. I hope that's helpful. Okay. All right. Let's see. Will the soldiers on the USS Lincoln be forced to sign DNAs? How will they depart the ship? I have a feeling it will not be seen by us. Well, I heard they already have been asked to sign DNAs. DNA, for those who don't know, this is a non-disclosure agreement. In other words, they'd be asked to sign a document saying that whatever happened on that ship stays on that ship, that they don't talk to reporters or family members or each other or anyone. And that if they do, they run the risk of being disciplined, because I guess this would be like a military thing. I think they have been asked to sign the DNA. We know that the ship is coming here to San Diego, which is interesting. How will they depart the ship? I mean, I don't understand the question. 1 foot at a time, right? I think I think they have been asked to sign DNAs. I mean, I know that for a fact. But there's another question right below that also deals with the USS Lincoln. So let's look at that one. How many soldiers have passed on the USS Lincoln, and will we find out how they passed? The cards are not going to tell us how many of anything ever, because they don't deal like that with, numbers. I guess the question can be, are there soldiers who passed away during their time on the USS Abraham Lincoln? And I'm going to let Spirit pick all the cards. Did soldiers pass away on that ship? I mean, you can bet in the next administration, the next Congress, there will be inquiries into this, which is all the more reason why it's bizarre that Hegseth thinks that he has, he can have presidential aspirations, but why he thinks that they would be fulfilled is beyond me. So here's the thing. So we have the bear, the mountain, the dog, the cross, and the heart. I will say this, that the bear, a bear, like every Lenormand card, wears multiple costumes and has, multiple parts that it plays, right? Here, it feels overbearing. So I do think this is the pressure that those sailors got to sign an NDA, to say nothing to see here, nothing happened, everything's fine. The trays were full of gourmet delights at every meal, and the laundry's been done, and the air conditioning has worked great, and we showed top of the line movies every night in the theater. That's all not true, right? So they have been ordered to sign NDAs. Remember that it's interesting that this is the card in the middle. This stands for the soldier. So these are the soldiers, the sailors on that ship. Did any of them pass away? I think so. I do think so, with the cross. And I can mirror the cross with the mountain, but we will not be told about them. Now, will the information get out? Well, yes. I mean, let's say that the sailors have been incommunicado with their families. All right, then they all get off the ship in San Diego and go home for leave. And some of them don't go home. Why would that be? Oh, because. Do you not think those families will ask questions? So I think this will really be heart wrenching. But yes, I do think that there may have been sailors who lost their lives. Will we ever find out how they passed? I think that there will have to be hearings, and those hearings, do not hold your breath, because they will not happen before the new Congress is in session. Okay. Phyllis Clark. Oh, interesting question. What will the relationship outcome look like between Trump and Michael Cohen? So interesting question. And the reason it's interesting is that relationship has been like a seesaw, right? Up and down, up and down, up and down. We know that Michael Cohen, who, by the way, is a very, very good writer. I will give him that. He writes really well. That said, he has been back and forth, in the felons camp, out of the felons camp, in the felons camp, out of the felons camp. He did an apology tour, basically. Mea culpa was the name of it. And mea culpa means, my fault. I take the blame for what I did for the felon. And then he fell back into his old ways. He's not a good guy, in my personal opinion. Entertainment purposes only. He's not a good person. We also know, though, that the felon does have this history of having people in his camp and then having a rift, happen between him and whoever it is, and they hate each other. They never want to see each other again as long as they live. And then they come back, and he always welcomes them back. I think he thinks of it as a conquest. Like, you thought I was all this and all that. You never wanted to see me again. And now here you are coming crawling back to me. That's Michael Cohen. So birds of a feather. He is as much of a vulture as the felon is. So you ask what the outcome will be. I think he's proven himself to be in Trump's camp. Could they have a falling out again? I mean, I don't know, maybe. But they're each, they each look out for themselves. And if you trust Michael Cohen, you're making a big mistake. So let's look at that relationship. I want to look at the relationship between the felon and his henchman, who, by the way, let me just say, knows way more than the nothing he says he knows about the you-know-what files. Why do I say that? Because he was the enforcer, threatening women. If you talk, you'll be sleeping with the fishes, or whatever the equivalent of what he said. He knows way more than he has told. Absolutely. So what is the relationship between them? Again, I'm not going to use a significator. I'm just going to let the cards tell me. Remember, too, that he never got that free and clear pardon from the felon that he wanted. He wanted his prison sentence erased. But anyway, bear, mice, tree, fish, and coffin. So interesting. So, he wants to stay on the felon's good side. I think he is afraid of the felon, and afraid really of everybody. I mean, it's very clear that he knew more about the E files. And so he's just generally afraid. He doesn't want to get, he doesn't want to go to jail again. But he's decided that his best course of action is to stick with the one who brung him to the dance, and that is the felon. But he's scared. I also think his health is not good. And I think emotionally, he's very depressed. Too bad, so sad. He's picked his poison, and the felon, I'm sure, will always hold it against him that he was the turncoat. And I'm sure that the felon loves that he came crawling back. So, you know what? I think they deserve each other. That's what I think. Okay, let's see what else. Cindy Cat Mom. Will California's Prop 40 taxing billionaires only once, 5%, pass? What? Wait, what? Oh, okay, you got to write the question so I can hear it. Understand it. Will California's Prop 40 taxing billionaires 5% pass? Okay. And then the question is, how will that affect our lives? Well, those are two separate questions. Will Prop 40 pass? Taxing billionaires, it's a one-time tax, apparently, of 5%. I think I'll let Spirit pick all the cards today. All right. Will Prop 40 pass? We have the tower, we have the ship, we have the lily, the mountain, and the clouds. So that's what I thought when I saw that you had asked that second half of the question, because your second half of the question implied that the first part of the question would have been answered in the affirmative. In other words, that Prop 40 would pass. This is government, but it's not just government. This is like corporations, right? And entities that have that kind of money, right? Billionaires. It looks like they would leave to avoid paying these taxes. Now, interesting that Lilly is in the middle. I mean, they want the peace of mind of keeping their billions, I guess. But the final two cards, we have the mountain and the clouds. I think there is some question as to whether it would pass. I know that California, sort of is perceived as this very liberal state, but there are wide swaths of California that are incredibly conservative, like where the billionaires are. I don't think there's a guarantee that this would pass. Therefore, there's no point in looking at how it will affect people's lives. And I'm certainly not going to spin a fairy tale and say, well, so everybody in California will get a guaranteed basic income and college will be free and everybody will get free health care. None of that's going to happen. But I don't know even that the thing would pass. I get that it's a one-time thing, 5% tax, but I think it's questionable as to whether it would pass. I'm sure that a lot of money will be thrown at it so that it doesn't pass, but that's what the cards are saying right now. Okay, CRK 9222. Will Stephen Miller ever be held accountable for his crimes against humanity? Well, there are many people who are guilty of crimes against humanity, both in this country and abroad. I'm looking at the country with the flag that's got a blue star on it, just saying. But you're asking me about Stephen Miller. Will he be held accountable for crimes? Will he be jailed? Everybody says he's a reincarnated Nazi, allegedly. But I mean, he kind of looks like one, just saying. Let's look at Stephen Miller. I'll use the young man for him because he would hate being portrayed by my handsome young black man. So we're gonna make him mad, and I'll use that as Stephen Miller. Will he face punishment? I mean, and it could be not by a U.S. court, right? It could be by some international court, maybe. The Hague, I don't know. We'll see. All right, so I'm looking for the younger man that will stand for Stephen Miller. Here he is. So we have the child, we have the lily, we have Stephen Miller, we have the ring, and we have Clover. I think in terms of remaking himself as someone new once all of this is over, I think that's what he will want to do. That was when I was young and foolish and, cut me a break kind of thing. But, we have the ring and we have Clover. I mean, I think that he will be one of the ones who's granted a pardon by the felon. I'm not saying that necessarily will get him out of trouble in an international way, but he will be granted a pardon. Here he is. Clarifiers are the fox, the house, and the ship. I suspect he may leave the country. I think he's probably maybe put already plans in place to leave the country. I don't know if he would go to the place with the blue and white flag, but I think he's made contingency plans. We have the ring, and this is like a commitment, a contract. I think that the felon will pardon him. Clarifiers for this are the mountain, the tree, and the garden. I mean, the thing is, he can be given that pardon, but it will have zero effect. There's still a mountain, right, between him and people. People will not look well on him. And that will last for a long time, probably the rest of his life. Here we have Clover, and the clarifiers are the letter, the key, and clouds. So yeah, he'll get lucky. This is the pardon, the get out of jail free card. But the last card is clouds, and I can mirror it with the child in terms of turning over a new leaf, starting over as sort of a better person. That's not going to happen because he won't be allowed to do that. He will be a pariah. So he may not go to jail for anything that the felon could pardon him for, but that doesn't mean that he won't be held accountable by maybe state entities over which a presidential pardon has no sway, and or over an international court. We are not part of the ICC, so that's problematic. But I think his life will be really difficult, like kind of like Dershowitz, where nobody invites you to their parties. Nobody wants to know you. You know, nobody wants their kids playing with your kids, that kind of thing. Okay, an independent is running for Senate in Idaho against an 83-year-old Republican. I mean, at what point do we get the rocking chair and just count our services done? I would think 83 would be it, but apparently no. How will this independent do in November? Okay, I don't know anything about this race, but what I can certainly do is I'm going to draw 5 cards for this independent candidate from Idaho. And then I'm going to draw 5 cards for the 83-year-old I guess, incumbent? Apparently the Democrat quit, probably because the Democrat assumed that the Republican incumbent had the thing sewn up. But it seems like an independent has entered the race. And so let's see. Okay, turn them all over. And the first cards that I've turned over are for the independent. The bottom row is for the incumbent. So here's the independent. Scythe, ring, cross, tower, star. These are not good cards for them. A scythe cuts, so it kind of messes up their chances of getting this role. And the point being really is the fact that we've got the cross in the middle. That's a no for them entering government in that capacity in the future. Future being November. But let's look at the incumbent, or the 83-year-old. Their cards are infinitely better. Clover, dog, bouquet, ship, and lily. They've got that race sewn up, which is clearly what the Democrat knew, which is why the Democrat is not there anymore, and why there's no other Democrat that has been put forward. This is luck. This is friends in high places. This is the reward, which is the job. He sails forth and is old as dirt. But again, he's comfortable because he knows that the job is his. So, sorry. Okay, we have 5 minutes left. Will New Mexico find anything on the Epstein Ranch? I think that that is a very loaded question, only because I think a lot of us had a lot of high hopes about the New Mexico investigation. Come to find out, though, I don't know that it was necessarily as thorough as it should have been, and whether the people doing the investigating were as, I'll just say, committed to finding truth as they want us to think that they are. So I guess what I'll ask is, will this New Mexico investigation break anything open in a big way when it comes to the e-files? Okay, I'll let Spirit pick all the cards. Will the New Mexico investigation lend itself to a deeper understanding of what went on than we have currently? Like, will there be some big discovery? Well, letter, bouquet, book, rider, clover. Yeah, I think actually, after I said all that, that there will be something, whether it's paperwork. I mean, I know you're probably asking about, buried bodies or something. But I think there might be some paperwork stuff that will be very helpful to the investigation in a big way. Now, it will be stuff that we didn't know before. So yes, there will be findings from that New Mexico investigation that will move things forward. Here's the rider. The rider is news that comes in. News about what? About stuff we didn't know before. And then we have clover at the end. So yes, I think that investigation may bear fruit. I know I sounded a little pessimistic because that's what I had been given to understand, that it wasn't the big aha moment that everybody hoped that it would be. But I think it will lend something important, yes, to the investigation. Is Trump's long game with Canada to ruin their economy so he can take over? Well, yes. I mean, right? Canada, Mexico, Venezuela, Greenland. We don't need cards for that. We know that that's what he wants to do, but you know what? It's not going to happen. I love Canada. I love Canadians. I've been there many times. I have a lot of friends there, and they're nice until they're not. And so he's foolish. But I will say that his aggression towards Canada will just hasten what I call the right sizing of the U.S. We are not the beginning and end, the be all and end all of countries. It's just it's just a story that we sold the world and the world bought it, but no more. I am very pleased with Carney, and I think that Canada's punch will be as hard or harder than whatever the felon throws at him. So, okay, a couple more questions. The look in Natalie's eyes disturbs me every time. Is she ill-possessed or am I overreacting? Come on. She's unwell. I did a video yesterday. I'm not up here talking about who's possessed and not possessed. Come on. She is clearly unwell. She believes that the felon saved her, cured her bone cancer by freeing up a drug. In point of fact, that is not what happened. The drug was available, it was administered, and she was cured. Her own doctor said the felon had nothing to do with it, not personally, not legislatively, nothing. He had zero to do with it. But she, of course, is convinced that he did. She has a fixation on him. She is unwell. And I think that rather than, I don't know, demonizing somebody by saying, is she possessed? I mean, come on. What are we doing? She's not well. I also think her presence there is a national security risk. Anyway, go back and look at the video that I did yesterday, because that was pretty much the only thing I talked about yesterday. One more question. Naturist Fred, will Marco Rubio eventually sign off on the extradition for the deviant Tate brothers? Thank you. Yeah, the Tate brothers, interesting, really interesting. Lena and I talked about them a little bit on Wednesday night. Rubio has said, I wash my hands of this. This is not anything that I would sign on the dotted line about, but it actually is. He's the head of the State Department, and the State Department, the Tate brothers, they can fight extradition, but, the UK, at least for the moment, is an ally of ours, and they have asked us to extradite these men. So we look bad if we don't. Not that that bothers the felon, but Rubio will stall just like the felon is stalling. And Rubio will say, well, it has to go through the proper channels and has to go up through the courts and etc. But the question is, will Marco Rubio extradite the Tate brothers? So let's just see. I'm going to let Spirit answer and pick all the cards, and this will be the last question. Thank you all for joining me. Please do like, share, subscribe. I really would love to get to 40,000 by the new year. And then we have the whole 2-year cycle before the presidential election. So lots of good readings to come. Crossroads. That's interesting. Like he doesn't know what to do. Kind of like the felon, right? The Tate brothers are personal friends of the felon's children. And also, I think that the Tate brothers ascribe to a philosophy that the felon approves of, apparently. But the felon and of course, Marco Rubio feel that they're between the devil and the deep blue sea. What are the people going to think? But then again, and this is not something Rubio has to worry about, but the felon does. Let's say that they get extradited. The felon's worried about, well, what will the revenge of the Tate brothers look like? What information do they have about the felon Jr. and Barron that would be incriminating? So maybe we should do them a solid and not extradite them. This is the tightrope that they're walking, the two roads that they are trying to figure out, what will the people say? In the center, we have the tower. Now, interesting, because the tower can be government, but guess what? The tower can also be prison. And then the fourth card is the cross. And I can mirror it with the garden, meaning the people are watching what you do. The public is watching. The British public, but more to the point, the American public are watching what this administration does in regard to the Tate brothers. And either way, it's going to be bad for the Tate brothers and for the felon and for the felon's children. And this is a really slow card. This is a card for like a year, 2 years before they actually deal with these choices here. So I think for the time being, they are going to be stuck in that Florida jail because nobody wants to make a decision. All right, everybody, thank you so much for coming. You'll be able to watch the replay of this as soon as we're done here. And I will do this again another time. Tomorrow, I have a video that will be recorded with astrologer Sheila Haidt, and that should be really interesting because there's been a lot of controversy in the astrology world about, who gets to decide what astrology is and who gets to sit at that table. So, some of you are privy to that whole thing and some of you are not, but we'll have an interesting conversation. She'll be looking at the energies that will be coming in for us this fall. So look for that video. I'll be putting that up tomorrow evening. So thank you all for coming. Do like, share, subscribe, and I will see you tomorrow and then again on Monday. Take care.